of an athlete, and my name is Roy Garcia. I'm here today for all the female athletes at Wilson Middle. In my years of being part of this community, I have never seen such a disconnect from the male and female program. I am fully aware that we have a new athletic director, and though I do not personally know him, I am disheartened by several actions that have taken place throughout this week. It's important that I emphasize that our family has chosen to submit. We have every option, every resource to move out of this. But we choose to go there because of the culture that it carries. And that's relevant and that's important, especially to the children, especially to the female athletes that participate in these programs. Our daughter is the only, and I have to emphasize that so you can understand the importance of the options, the only volleyball player from 8th grade, even to your seniors, that plays at a national level. But yet we still choose TM because we believe that the culture here that's embedded in each and every individual in this school is important to make her a better human being. All of my children have graduated from here. From my husband in 93, to our oldest daughter in 2016, to our son in 2019, to our other son in 2021, and now our daughter is coming up. As a mother, it is my responsibility to ensure that these programs are not just fed to the male programs. It's important that they are all equally across the board, treated equally, acknowledged equally. Currently, we have had a turnaround in the head coach volleyball program. There have been several qualified applicants that have applied for that position with the experience that is necessary for TM to have a stronger program. But yet, it has not been addressed. The applicants submitted their applications in early March 20th, when the job position became vocally available, and nobody has addressed it. CCISD requires that certain applicants sign contracts, and I'm sure the AD knows this. So not addressing these qualified applicants that have the potential to make these programs stronger, better, that are possibly be mentors, is important to these programs, especially the female programs. And I know most of you guys are males up here, except for 2 young ladies, but it's important that it's addressed and it's not completely ignored. I know many of you even saw the post that was acknowledged on Facebook by the AD that completely only addressed the male athletes and was going to extend that program to only your male athletes at the 6th grade level. That was a slap to the face as a female and as a mother trying to raise her daughter to be a strong, independent, successful woman in a world that is constantly telling her that she's not worthy. It is your responsibility. It is this forum that you have to start making changes for these athletes. You can't keep ignoring it. It has to be taken care of. And I'm only happy and proud that we have finally made a strong decision on a superintendent that is going to possibly come in here and start addressing all of these issues that are important to our female athletes. And I'm sorry that I'm becoming really passionate, but you have to understand that as a mother, my daughter doesn't have a voice. So it is my responsibility to convey those things to you so you understand the magnitude of this. To you, it may just seem like a volleyball program, but it's not. It's where girls come together and grow as individuals and become better human beings. It's the camaraderie behind all of it. And you can't continue to ignore that. So from one athlete's mom to you guys, I'm asking you and begging you to please look into this, to please address it, to please don't throw it under the pile and act like it's not existent. Because I'll tell you this will not go unnoticed. Thank you.
This time, before we go to closed session, board will convene a closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, or possible, pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, consider and discuss hiring superintendent and approval of the superintendent contract. If the closed session item requires action, the board should take such action on reconvening open session. 551.102, a certified agenda of closed session is maintained. 551.103, and items of motion disclosed in accordance with the law. 551.104. It is 6:12 p.m., April the 25th, 2022. We are in closed session. We are going to take ourselves back to the closed session. It's 6:27 p.m., April the 25th, 2022. We entertain a motion for the session. I will make the motion that we hire Stephen Van Matrix as the superintendent of Los Midway ISD, effective June the 6th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
That's what I do.
Well, I heard
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Would y'all entertain a short recess so everyone, I don't think everyone got to meet Mr. Van Matrix. Would you like to have a short recess, or would you like to say something, Mr. Van Matrix?
I would.
Please do.
And if you'll forgive me, I'd like to address the most important people here, which is our students. Where they go? Some of them. I promise you that I won't wait till June the 6th to put your interests ahead of everything. You have an interim superintendent that'll be with you till you seniors graduate to the end of the school year. But she and I will be working together to make things as good as we possibly can for your educational career at Tolosa Midway. There's no other job that I would rather have than to be your superintendent. Having spent 35 plus years in Corpus Christi, in Region 2, at Senton and CCISD, your reputation is pristine. And I dedicate to you that we will do everything possible to make things as good as they possibly can be. Parents, thank you for your partnership. Right now, I don't know who my parents are and who my staff are, so I'm just going to look at all of them. I know you people. Them being here tonight is the highlight of anything that they do, even more so than hiring a superintendent. But they're not here tonight. They wouldn't be here tonight without the partnership that this district has with the home. And it's so important because our greatest commodity as a school district is trust. And when we lose that trust, it's very difficult to get it back. And I promise you, parents, we will value that trust. And we will do everything humanly possible to continue that trust so that there's no choice but only TM. And to our staff, it's been an unbelievable 2 years since March of 2020. And if there's anyone that we can count on, it's been you. You're here daily. You're here under trying conditions. And your pay scale is substandard. And if there's anything that I will be focused on, it's the safety of our schools, getting our salaries to where we're competitive with our neighbors, and building trust back into this community with the school district. I give you my word, after the students, you will be my biggest priority. Thank you for the opportunity.
Will the board entertain a short recess so we can finish the meeting? And then we'll recognize, where's the like to recognize coach, if that's okay. The board, take a short recess. Okay. It's 6:33 p.m. April 25th, 2022. We're going to be in about a 10-minute recess. That's fine. 10-minute recess. We're in recess.
Now, thank you so much for coming this evening. I apologize if you're not able to hear all of us. We're doing the best we can in this large building. Thank you very much for coming.
I'd like to reiterate that as well. Thank you all for being here this evening for this occasion. Now we come to the point we all like the most, and it's to recognize some of our students. And what it's going to be is the state champions and qualifiers of our students. Mr. Cora?
I have coaches come forward. This is the procedure. Coaches are going to call the names. I'm going to hand a certificate, shake hands. Then they're going to go behind me and shake hands with board members. And then they're going to stay up here for a group picture. Don't understand.
I'm the athletic director here at the TM. I always want to take a chance to say how much we appreciate all of our sports. And then we're going to have powerlifting, we're going to go powerlifting and swim today. Thank you for being here. And the coaches are going to share a little bit something about their season and their awards. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Coach Alamise. This is my 19th year here. I really enjoyed being here. We had 5 boys that qualified to state. Unfortunately, only have 1 here. We're only losing 1 senior. Our boys were 2nd in district and regionals. And we're one of the sports that's still been under 5A and under. So being a small 4A group of swimmers, that's pretty good. We're having the fortunate thing, finally, UIL approved having a 4A under next year. So we're really excited about that. Hopefully we can bring home some state titles. Would be nice, and have a larger group of state finalists. I have 1 senior here. This is Monty Cortez. He qualified in 2 events. He was on the 200 medley relay and in the 500 freestyle. He is going to continue swimming. He's going to be going to McMurray, so he will be swimming in college. So hopefully we'll see some more growing out of him and improvements and continue.
Ready?
Well, I had four other boys with me up here. Yes. We had Alex Craig, who's a sophomore, qualified in our 200 free relay. Luca Nizenblatt, the one senior I was talking about, he qualified also the 200 free relay and the 200 free relay. We had his younger brother, Mateo Nizenblatt, who's also a sophomore, qualified in both of those relays and another freestyle. We also had Tomas Benador, who's a junior this year. He qualified, he was our most state qualifier, qualified both relays, 50 free and the 100 butterfly. And he was also named district swimmer of the year at our district meeting.
Okay, next coach.
And there's the mic, coach. There's the mic.
Next group up is our powerlifting team. We have a boys and girls powerlifting team that have excelled this year. Coach Hawks, Coach Kyle, Coach Rodriguez will come share a little bit about the season. Coaches, come up, please. I'll hand it over to Coach Hawks if you can tell us more about your season.
Hello, I'm Coach Hawks, powerlifting coach. This is Coach Kyle, one of the assistant coaches, Coach Rodriguez, one of the assistants. This is my first year at TM. Was excited and lucky to come in to kind of a program that had a strong tradition in powerlifting, both on the boys and girls side. Through the athletes, that great experience, came in to understand what they were doing and to recognize the tradition and to try to build on that tradition. I was lucky with the group of athletes we had. I thought we built a very solid team through the boys, which is the Warriors of the Cherokee program. And, they started working. I believe our last meeting was in March 25th. Boys meeting was March 25th. We started training November 1st. And our time would come in at 6:55 in the morning. So we've been training at that time, coming in and lifting, because that's the best time that we can get our athletes in to let them get work in the weight room, so we had it to ourselves. So we have a really hard group. This year we're fortunate, we took, on the girls' side of it, we took 5th place in the state. Then we had one a state champion lifter. On the boys' side, we took 3 lifters to the state championship. We're fortunate to work with these athletes and look forward. We have a strong core coming back, and hopefully they learn from the season that we had this year, so we can move forward and have a great season. Okay. I'd like to call our athletes up. Linda Luqueta. She'll be returning next year. Then we have high hopes for her next year. Okay, junior, 3rd place in state, Alexis Valdez. Senior Juliana Vasquez. Juliana took 4th at the state this year. now we have senior, state record holder with the 430-pound squat, state record holder with the total weight combined of 1,005 pounds, and state champion, senior Morgan Kendall. All right, we had 3 lifters that qualified for state this year. One of our athletes, Delon Rodriguez, he is at the law enforcement competition, competing for the school up in, I believe, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We had another weightlifter, Evan Salazar, who was not able to make it tonight, but he was a senior qualified this year. Representing the boys weightlifting team today is Robert Crone. We'll be returning to us next year, but I hope he's top 15 in the state this year. Did a really good job. Okay. We appreciate all the support that everyone from the administration, school board, everything wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the support of the TM community allowing us to do what we do. Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Rob Morales. I'm the instrumental music director for the district and also serve as a high school band director. Tonight we're acknowledging and we thank the board for acknowledging our students this evening. We're acknowledging students that advanced and earned a chair to the area tryouts. Just a little bit about the tryouts. Anyone that earned a chair at this for the area level is a state qualifier. Depending on the instrument that the students play, there might be a minimum of anywhere from 10 students in that section to possibly 40. So it depends on what section there are. It's a bit more competitive and a lot more difficult. The more students there are, the more competitive it is. And in some of the smaller sections, there's, let's say, 10 auditioning. It might take only 1 to the all-state band. So this year we have several students, and I'll start with a student that made the area jazz. On trombone, making area jazz is Esteban Serna. A couple of our flute players, area band chair, Hannah Phillips. Another one of our flute players, Angelina Palacios. One of our clarinet players, Maricapel de la Rosa. Another clarinet player, Alexis Lara. Another clarinet player, Jordan Lanningham. Our bass clarinetist, Alexis Guevara. On the tenor saxophone, Ezekiel Adams. Our tenor trombone, David Gonzalez. And our last area candidate was on tuba, Emily Lopez. Once we had the area auditions in January, we did have one student place in the all-state band, earning 6th chair in the state out of hundreds of clarinetists. 6 chairs, like I said, 6 chairs in the state on clarinets by the Captain de la Rosa. Thank you all so much for all of your students. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, thank you so much. It's always wonderful to recognize our students. That's what we're here for. Good to see you here. Everyone, I appreciate all you've done. Worked so hard for what you've done. A pleasure to report. Number 13, discuss and consider approval of Bill Wilson, architect, work on maintenance project. With that, do number 1.
Item number 13. Good evening. I'll go ahead and use it. The audience can hopefully hear a little bit. Good evening. We're here. We have a good problem on our hands. We've been on CEP for the last 4 years due to Hurricane Harvey, and that means that all our students have been eating lunch for free, and we've been accumulating some money into a fund balance. We have we've accumulated about 1.5.
Can you all hear me?
All right, because I can hear it fading in and out real quick. We have accumulated a balance of about 1.5 million, and in TDA terms, Texas Department of Agriculture, that is a bad thing. We've got to spend it, and it has to be spent in food service. So we're looking to spend that money in renovations in the cafeterias. We're looking at replacing the freezer, the walk-in freezer and refrigerator at the high school, so they're original to the building. We need cafeteria tables at the high school and primary, and then we're looking at food equipment such as rotisserie ovens, pizza conveyors, and other equipment at various schools. Because of the amount of some of these purchases, specifically the walk-in freezers and coolers, the cost will exceed $50,000. So we are required to have an architect for these projects. In the past, we've used Bill Wilson as an architect for a number of projects in the district. We've used him at the high school for the switchgear replacement, the chiller upgrades. We've used him here at the middle school for the air conditioning replacements. The most recent project that he completed with us was the restroom renovation over at the high school by the Commons. He's done great work for us. We're pleased with his work, and that's why we're recommending him for this project. This project will require a lot of electrical work, as upgrades for the refrigerators and the equipment that we're doing, possible vent hood installation, a little bit of roof work, and that's all work that he has done for the district, and we're pleased with. He's offered to do this at a 9% fee, which would include, For a fee of 9% of the cost of the equipment purchase, the installation, and any MEP costs. This fee would include any additional solicitation for proposals, renewal of bids or equipment, and the recommendation of selections of bidders, assistance for the execution of purchase order, and the coordination meetings during delivery, installation, and closeout. Pretty much a turnkey process for anything that we're using to spend this money on. Are there any questions?
Will there be any warranties with the work?
Yes, the warranty comes on the equipment purchases, and in the past, just like with our roofing projects and stuff, Bill has stood behind that. And Bill Wilson he's here in the audience if you have any questions for him.
So, Mr. Wilson, is that a 1-year roof guarantee, or is that? Well, if the roof is not, so the fee right now is $50,000, so you're charging the district $2,500 to do all of this work? Is that correct, or is that?
No, sir. It's over, the threshold is 50,000.
Oh,
The freezer's gonna cost more than that.
Oh, okay.
But yes, anything above 50,000 requires an architect.
So, what then happens when we go out for all of this? I mean, I know we have a contract, but this doesn't mean it's qualification.
We're going to, all the equipment is going out for bid. We're just at this time, we're just soliciting an architect. It doesn't require us to go out for bid. We can select an RFP. We don't have to go out for RFQs, request for qualifications. We've already established a working relationship with him. We're pleased with his work, and we believe he can stand by us on this project and do a great job for us.
So this is just
Yes,
okay.
this is just the architect. All the equipment with the freezer will have to go out to bid. Anything over the threshold amount will go out for bid. The equipment comes with a warranty. Your question about the roof is actually warranted already. We're just having to penetrate the roof. We're not going to be replacing the roof, but we'll have to do some penetration of the roof. And he's going to ensure that we meet the qualifications so we don't void the warranty.
Especially at the high school. That's good. I'm sure that's what we're trying to get to. We don't need any more incidents, I guess you'd say.
Yes.
So, but I understand, right now it's just a front, so we're ahead of us.
Just as a piece of background, for the roofing jobs that we've done for the district, we've specified a 20-year manufacturer's warranty. And on many of your roofs, you have that kind of warranty. And so it's important that when you're doing repairs, or in this case, perhaps installing new rooftop equipment and new penetrations for ventilation hoods, that we write the specifications and requirements so that whoever does that work is approved by the manufacturer that of whose roof is on the roof on the building at the location. You got several different manufacturers, several different warranties, and several different requirements. So there are some technical requirements that will be respected.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What was the fund balance you said we had in the?
It's approximately 1.5 million.
Okay.
And it can only be spent on food service.
It's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve Bill Wilson to be the architect of record for food service renovations.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. We have a motion to administer recommendations, please. John, we have a second, please. We have a second. Any further discussion? Questions? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now we move back to the first item, discuss and consider approval of district renovation plan effective April 2023.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, audience. This is the final time that I'll be bringing forward to you before the board approval for moving forward as a district of innovation now that we have finally put together our plan for the district. Just to kind of give everybody a beginning to end time lapse of kind of how this all went down. We began having initial conversations and presentations about what being and becoming a district of innovation was back in October. Basically, through November, we spent those first 2 months really just educating the stakeholder groups involved, the principals, the directors, ourselves, the committee members that were responsible for putting together the plan, and of course, the board. So we spent the first 2 months in October, November, working towards just understanding the nature of the I hit the button. We're good. Okay. I didn't have fun this time.
Batteries.
Okay, I killed the battery, so I guess that means I need to be quick. So December and January worked ourselves through the resolution, which we brought forward, allowed us to begin exploration of the District of Innovation Plan in a more formal capacity. In January, we had a public hearing where we also did the same type of introduction about DOI to the community, at which point we got some feedback, and from there we were able to move forward based on the board's approval of the resolution. We spent the good majority of February and March actually just working together in the committee, putting together the plan for the district. And so tonight, we are bringing the final plan to you all for that approval that we're looking for. And again, just to kind of give everybody a reminder of what the DOI plan looks like. Again, it's posted online. It's available for anybody to look at and see. We have 6 exemptions. The 6 exemptions for the district that we have selected are teacher employment contracts. We also selected probationary contracts. We selected the minimum attendance for class credit or final grade, also known as the 90% rule. We selected student-teacher ratios and class size. We selected designation of the campus behavior coordinator for discipline. And we also selected inter-district student transfers. So those are the 6 exemptions that comprise the local innovation plan. And again, those selections came forward from a survey that the committee that was responsible for putting together the plan. The survey was what we went with after realizing that those were the exemptions that were selected. And again, becoming a district of innovation allows us necessary flexibilities within those 6 areas to allow us to do some different things that are unique and unique to the district, but also allows us the ability to do some greater things within those actual exemptions that without the district of innovation plan, we could not. And so, with that being said, we are ready to give you the mic for the.
It's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees authorize this, to approve the TMISD District of Innovation Plan as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. We have a motion of administrative recommendation, please. 30 seconds. Any comments or questions?
That's a comment. Question. So the non-certified teachers, is there a number of those?
What do you mean?
Is that for all courses?
No, like I said, the plan outlines exactly where we'll start. Before we even begin.
But there'll be core courses too, right?
Only for the high area needs, if we end up realizing that all of those who have applied.
So if there's a high area need, it just means somebody doesn't apply, so you hire a non-certified teacher, correct?
Well, we're going to follow the plan as stated in the local innovation plan, which says that if we go through the hiring process, we're going to go through the traditional hiring process of posting for 10 days, looking at the initial candidates that post, making sure that if someone is certified, they're being given the priority. If we go through that process and walk away with nothing, then we move to the next step, which allows us to go through the district innovation process
And hire non-certified teachers.
to find somebody that, yes, sir, if that was what we needed to do.
So the
those
minimum,
specific areas.
the class, 90% attendance rule.
Yes,
So
sir.
I don't understand that. So you're gonna have them less attendance in school?
No, so.
What is the percentage of attendance? So the percentage is 90%, meaning they have to be in school 90% of the time for the entire year. And a student at the high school level who is trying to earn credits for graduation, if they fall below 9%, that means they are in danger of not receiving that credit based on the required seat time that the state of Texas requires all students to be in. If we decide that we would like to use this exemption for a particular situation where the 90% rule would cause a student not to earn credit, then we could, based on how the plan is prescribed. Meaning that if there is an extenuating circumstance that the attendance committee looks at and considers something that they would approve to be under the DOI. For instance, due to COVID, we've had specific students not be able to attend school due to reasons outside of their control. And currently districts are using this exemption to allow specific students who might not be able to attend school because they're at home having to care for a parent or a grandparent. Just again, they have great attendance. They've never had any academic or educational issues at the school. They're again just at the home because they can't be at school due to a situation outside of their control. Therefore, we would look at this exemption so that, again, a student that did not have academic issues could continue learning either remotely or through a plan that that committee would create. So again, the seat time does not prevent that student from graduating, because if we didn't have COVID in the picture, the student would still be attending school, still going to all their classes, and still making the grades that historically that pattern has been in place. And so this exemption would really only be for students that qualified through those means. It wouldn't just be for any student that is 90% and below. We already have a process for that.
And then going back to the non-certified teachers, you would hire them, and then your plan says that within 2 years they have to be certified, correct?
Within the first year is the expectation, and the second year would be something that the committee would look at for approval based on that particular candidate situation, or just trying to create, again, the flexibility there just in case we need to look at that. But again, the expectation would be that they would get it done in 1 year. And then you start to get another non-certified teacher to teach the class for 2 years. We're doing
No, that's not reality. And again, just because they're not certified doesn't mean that they aren't going to be the best, the best candidate that will bring it forward. Because we're going to be going through the steps as we typically would. The DOI just allows us to exhaust all possible options because the prior options didn't bear out any results for us.
And the teacher must have a bachelor's degree in the subject that they're teaching. So they have to have a lot of subject knowledge.
They have to have experience either through college hours, through career industry, or some sort of related background or experience. It's not going to just be somebody who, out of a whim, we're going to hire for English, even though they have a bachelor's degree in art history and have been working at Starbucks for the last 10 years. That's not what this is about. This allows us to potentially explore educators at the post-secondary level, which we've already have already done through a different type of contract way. But again, it allows us to look further out, cast a wider net for candidates, and again, given the teacher shortages that we already currently know, and just the current state of the teacher shortages period through the state, this again just allows us some flexibility to explore as many options as we possibly can to find that best candidate for TM.
So for your 90% rule, if you do this plan, then you don't have to worry about that rule for UIL, correct?
If, depending on the student, depending on the situation, that would.
If you deem that student is okay to play football, he's okay to play football.
As long as the grades are still there. As long as the grades are still there.
All right.
But again, those students that would qualify have already proven that they have the grades. Again, the reason why they fall under this exemption is because of something that is extenuating, that is preventing them from attending school, where they've already kind of shown us as a history or a trend that they've had no problems attending school. Because like I said, we already have attendance recovery, we already have a committee that would handle all of those situations.
Can we utilize that attendance recovery or even make it grades right now? Because I know we have a situation this year with several exercise. So this is nothing, there's nothing changing on this.
No.
This just provides the extenuating circumstance and the flexibility where we did have that situation, and that particular student doesn't really qualify for this because the attendance really isn't a truancy issue, it's more of a situation outside of their control. We want to honor that by having them still continue by focusing on the skills and the actual curriculum, rather than trying to worry about being at school where, again, something's preventing that particular student from being able to do that, which is outside of their control. We don't want to have any student punished because of that. That's right, putting the students first.
So with students, we're going to increase pre-K through fourth grade to 24.
We are not going to increase anything because, again, the concept is
Right now,
that
there's 24 classroom pre-K?
I'm sorry?
Are there 24 kids in the classroom pre-K?
No, not like
Like we're going to move it to that.
Well, what we are wanting to allow is, again,
24
the flexibility to have that as an option, whereas if we know we've got a student coming in the district, let's say the eighth week of school, we have a student coming in, and now all of a sudden that particular student, we have to place them somewhere, but when we do, it pushes us over the threshold of the number 22, and now we have to either hire another staff member or figure out another configuration, because now we're bound by state law.
But now under this, you can put the other kids in there and fill it up.
We can do some different types of flexibilities, but again, sir, we wouldn't just do and
Well,
and
you
fill
can,
things up.
because you would have it in here.
Well, we could, but we're not going to unless it makes sense and works within the purview of the actual campus, the stakeholders involved, the administration. Again, it just allows us to do some different things within certain time frames or windows where if we didn't have that as an option, we're having to try to hire somebody, or we're trying to have to send letters and waivers. And again, going through the bureaucratic red tape of that, if we can prevent it, we would like to, just because it makes our life a little bit easier and allows, again, more freedom and opportunities for the campus administrators to do some different things according to those student needs and according to the latest data that we're looking at for those decisions.
Just put 24 in class. It's okay. It's fine.
So, just a question I would have right now, then. Even though right now that our policy says that if we have one extra student, we're gonna hire a teacher.
If we
At
go,
full expense, or maybe it's 3.
it could potentially be that
The
case.
reason why we're not building a master student for this, is we're trying to utilize or maximize the use of our teachers. Instead of just continuing to add it up.
Yeah, so like, I think what you were trying to say was, this allows us the flexibility to still provide the education and services we need for students, particularly students that are coming in as transfers or late enrollments into the year. This right here, again, we're not going to just allow ourselves to have maxed out rooms where that's what we're going to do because we can. It's going to be by design, it'll be with intention and with purpose, because again, if we have a group of 24 in this room, it's by design. We are doing something intentionally because that particular situation calls for it. If we are needing to make an adjustment because the 24 number is too high, or we don't want to go anywhere near that because, again, drilling down to the student level, we realize what the class makeup looks like. If the decision is that going to a higher number does not provide any benefit, we're not going to do that. Any decision that's made will only be if it's beneficial to our students, to our staff, to our campuses.
And if we have to, that it will be a temporary basis as soon as possible.
Correct. It will be, that's part of a greater plan to fix it, but this is just temporary so that, again, we're not having to be kind of put in a situation where our backs are against the wall because of a student coming in midday or mid-year or just whenever, and now we're bound by a number that's kind of arbitrary. Again, it's just a flexibility. We don't have to do it if we don't want to. It's just there, and it just allows us at least the opportunity to have that.
It makes it easier to fill the classes out. Yes, it does.
Yes.
So how many kids at the junior high and high school though?
Are you asking overall?
No, in the classroom.
The junior high?
Because it doesn't mention that on here.
Well, it's not broken down specifically by campus, and again, this would
Well,
only
over
be for
fourth
the
grade,
primary.
that's
This would only be for the primary. because this is state law.
Well, state law is up to fourth grade, you know.
Okay, so anywhere else?
So you can have more different grades.
Still no. Right, like in the high school, for instance, it's not uncommon for some classes to have 30 students because of the class or the nature of what's being taught or just the way in which the master schedule was created. Obviously, that's not ideal, but that is something that is possible.
Once again, it's not your intention to
No.
fill every class,
No.
24.
No.
That's not.
I do want to say thank you because this is a lot of work and I know there was a lot of extra time and effort that went in by a whole lot of people on the campuses. So we do appreciate the extra work that has been done to get the DOI stuff, the exemptions taken care of.
It's very true, because they spent a lot of time to receive all those months they met, discussed, they had to have approval, different stages of it. There is a lot of effort, a lot of thought put into it. We appreciate that.
And like I said in the last meeting, the whole panel was here of the people involved, and I think this is great for the system. And I also want to thank all the ladies who are up here. I think we're doing I'm there, but great job. Great effort.
It was a great committee. In fact, of all the committees I've had the opportunity to work with, this has been by far the best experience. And I can truly say that because it really has been.
Okay, we
Or I do want to thank you guys, because we did get all of this information over an extended amount of time. But most importantly, it was a shock to me that we were talking from the district. As a matter of fact, I think we were even supported up, Mr. Portal, everybody's worked with it. It seems to have been something that every other district has already moved to. So thank you for bringing it to their attention. Thank you for dedicating, volunteering time.
And I do want to thank Mrs. Cora for supporting me 100%. She stated that at her meeting. Thank you for that.
a lot of people, a lot of hours, a lot of time. We appreciate it very much, because it was time consuming. Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 5-1. We do vote to discuss and consider approval of EPA allotment and PEACE certification for 2022-2023.
So, being brought back once more in front of you all for your approval to move forward with submitting to TEA the 2022-2023 allotment and TEAC certification form. This is something that we do every school year at this time as part of getting ready and preparing for next year in terms of purchasing the instructional materials for the districts. Your approval allows us to move forward with purchasing those materials for the next school year. And so we are just bringing this in front of you all so that we can move forward with that process. And again, the form will certify that the district is providing the required TEACs and the required materials to support teaching those required TEACs for all of the contents and subjects K through 12 in the district.
It's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees authorize the submission of the 22-23 allotment and TEAC certification as presented.
I'll make that motion. Do we have a second, please? 1 second. Comments, questions? Something to do? Okay. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Discuss and consider making a JROTC fire range in honor of Felix Sardine Jr., the former TM board member.
All right. We've had some discussion about this board policy, and in talking with Tassie Policy Service and our school attorney, It is not necessary to change the board policy as such. If you're wishing to name an NJROTC firing range for deceased member Felix Sandine Jr., longtime board member, you can do that this evening. The word preference means that you would prefer to wait 5 years, but in this case, if you don't want to, you don't have to. It's up to the board. We can leave the policy as it is. So there's not a requirement for 2 readings.
We have a motion, is your recommendation?
I'm leaving this up to the board because this is your dedication to him and you
Then I'll
wish.
make the motion. I'd like to make the motion first to name the firing range of Board Member Felix Sandine Jr. and to be considered for his dedication and support of the ROTC program, not only in being part of the opening program as well as always being a benefit banquets and any other events until the day of transition.
We have a second. We have a second. Comments, questions, discussion?
I have a question. So, this firing range, what is it?
Okay.
I mean, is it a firing range?
Yes, at the back part of the high school, there are several programs out there. We have welding, auto mechanics, the print shop, and the technology department, and then we have the NJROTC, which is 3 or 4 rooms. The firing range is actually a rectangular room where they have, at one end, where they have a place where the people can stand or kneel or be on their bellies to fire a gun. And they're firing it into this specially prepared soft, I don't know if you call it fabric or material. Of course, they're not firing real bullets.
Okay.
They're firing, I don't know what they're called, but it's for indoor firing. And it's all soundproof. It's a very nice facility.
Is it open to the public?
No, it is not. Yes. And I mean, it's not necessarily just air. You can actually tell, like if you have a target up, you can tell where the bullet has gone.
So it's the air rifle.
Yes, little pellet. And they have plenty of those guns for practice. It's a very nice room.
We have a motion. Second, do you have any further discussion? Okay, any discussion support, all those in favor? Those opposed? Discuss and consider out-of-state field trip. Reflect high school family and choir. I'm in Florida, May 31st. May 31st and June 4th, 2022.
Good evening. Previously this year, we brought forth a plan for students to go to Disney and to be part of a leadership academy which you approved. Everybody knows it's summer, and the minivans applied to that same leadership academy. And we kind of missed our window that we've been put on the waiting list for that leadership academy. So we wanted to make sure that you fully understood that if you allow us to go this particular time, there is a chance we may or may not be part of that leadership academy. But because you approved it as a leadership academy, we wanted to make sure that you understood that that might not happen. So we're asking for you to approve a trip in case it does not end up being that we're able to join that leadership academy.
We ask for I'm sorry, let's make it.
No, I would just go that, but that's the presentation, the recommendation.
It is brought back to you because it was going to change. You had approved it in the past, and so we're just showing it to you once more. And it is still the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the out-of-state field trip for high school band and choir to Orlando, Florida, May 31st to June 4th, 2022.
We have a motion of administrative recommendation. Dan, give a second. The discussion of the next brought this back.
We just want to make sure it's on the up and up, that you knew what was going on.
Okay.
For transparency. Just want to work with the high school, maybe it was a different.
Any further discussion? No discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Discuss and consider out-of-state field trip request fees and pay fees. June the 12th to the 18th of 2023.
It's me again. So we're happy to report that many of our students qualified for one state and got medals in the state, and the next step is obviously nationals. So we're asking today is for them to go to Kentucky to participate in the nationals meet during those dates of June 12th through June 18th. We will be flying. We have a coach who's not particularly keen on doing that. She might drive herself. She just doesn't want to get on the plane. So we've kind of figured that out. But other than that, we will be asking your permission to go to the National Speech and Debate meet in Louisville, Kentucky on those dates.
Okay, it is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the out-of-state field trip for speech and debate to Louisville, Kentucky, June the 12th through 18th, 2022.
I'll make that motion with the, out-of-state field trip, thank the high school band, squad, and the speech and debate in Louisville, Kentucky, June 12th through the 18th of 2022. Then a second, please. Good. Any discussion?
You didn't check off the box, is this going to be doing an activity fund, or is this, you did put fundraising? The cost of, fundraising. Well, they were, fight. Yeah, fight. So I'm sorry, everybody.
Paperwork's not filled out fully.
So it should be paid out of the above beyond account.
That's not described, and what the expenses be paid for is not described.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good, that's all. Transportation, marketing, for those.
Will you just explain to us where the funds come from?
It's coming from the above and beyond account.
We have a budget for, we call it the off district, so any DYL or other activity where they can't beyond the local level, we pay for it.
And at this point, we can just guess as far as flights, hotels, because it's too far away. But as soon as we get to go ahead, we can go ahead and do that research to get the exact amount.
So all transportation, lodging bills, and registration, all those are checked boxes.
Yes.
And would this be campus and general school fund, or this would be other?
It's, we call it beyond district. It's a separate part of the budget to cover these activities with kids, with students, and approved activities that they pass the level.
So it'd be the other box. On the form, it's the other district, correct?
Yes, it's from budget funds.
So the 1,500 is for the 12 students. I'm sorry, the 15,000 is for the 12 students. Or you create.
I'm not sure how we qualify.
So if the 12 students would be from the explanation cost, you have 15,000. Right. And then it's the cost of running. That's an estimation.
They just competed this weekend. But knowing the timeline that we're on, how we have to approve things, with flights and hotels, I can get you the per member company that's qualified to just have it on. So we will get to that. Yes, we try.
Right, it would be great.
Any comments, questions? We have a motion in a second. All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Discuss and consider approval of position of received non-chapter quarterly contract.
Since you approved the District of Innovation plan, within that plan it states that if we hire an educator who is not a certified teacher, that we will give them a District of Innovation permit and we will give them a non-Chapter 21 contract. Educator contracts can only be given to teachers who are certified. Because these teachers are not certified yet, then we have to give them another type of contract. Policy DCE also states that if we're going to add any positions who are eligible to receive a non-Chapter 21 contract, we will come to you for the approval. And this is what we're asking. We're asking that the very last one, the very last item, it says that uncertified teachers hired under the District of Innovation plan will be eligible for a non-Chapter 21 contract.
This is just now.
We're adding it on.
You're setting on the
The rest you
bottom.
all have, we've already,
Right.
we're just adding it on to comply with the DOI. Any questions?
It's the administration's recommendation the Board of Trustees approve the positions listed above as those who are eligible to receive a non-Chapter 21 contract.
Board, we have a motion of administrative recommendation approving. Here. Need a second. Comments, questions? Mr. Housing. No comments, discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Report budget development, report of projected student enrollment, discussion of the number of transfer students. This is what.
If you look at your packets, you will notice we begin with the budget development calendar, which we started developing our budget for the next year in February. And now we're looking at our April 25th board meeting, and it says we're going to look at information on budget process, first discussion of that, and salary charts and stipends, second discussion. When we set this up, we weren't quite at this point just yet. But we have asked for the campuses and the departments to turn in their budgets. And today, as about half of them have arrived, but we just came back from intercession, so we're allowing them to turn in this week if they haven't done so already. And we're still looking at salary charts as we meet. On the next page of your packet, we have, we've taken into consideration how many students are in each grade level. And you'll notice in 20 to 21, how many students we had for a total of 3,837. And then the next year is 3,753. Of course, we had COVID in between there. And the reference for this is the taper report. And the one for current year is from our October 22nd Peens Snapshot Day, which is what the taper report uses. Then we projected about how many students we think will come. And we never quite know how many pre-K and kindergarten students are coming to us. And so it's just an estimate of 93, 94 students may be coming. But then as you see, after you get out of the pre-K and kindergarten column, we just took the number and walked it forward to the next grade, assuming that every child's going to pass to the next grade level. And we're holding our own about the same amount of students, but we also recognize that more houses are being built in the area, and we have no way of knowing how many children are in those families. So we do want to try to make room for those, but this is just a first try at looking at how many students we think are going to come to us. And we also looked at at the bottom chart there, our economically disadvantaged are at risk. At-risk means that they are at risk of not graduating with their class on time because of something that's happened in their life. Also bilingual ESL percentages, gifted and talented, special education, and mobility. Mobility is how many students move in and out of the district, and it's been 12.4%. So that's just something we do as a preliminary to try to figure out how many rooms we will need.
On the chart, on the first grade, I'm assuming the number one is first. From this year to next year, you have from 292 to 246. What is wrong?
Okay, because in 21-22 in kindergarten, we had 246. And we assuming all of them pass and go to first grade. So we put 246. We just promoted them to the next grade level for our number purposes, for estimation.
But this year, we had 292.
Yes.
So
No, we had, right now, we have 313. So you can see those 313 students that are in second grade.
Number one.
Number one, okay.
We're 21, 22, right?
We're 21-22,
So we're at 292 on number one.
yes.
And then it drops to 246 for next year. I know y'all carry.
Okay, look at the number above, and Kinder was 246.
Correct.
And so when they go to first grade, then that drops to the next level.
I see what it is, but I just don't understand how to subtract 50.
We currently, right now, our kinder class, we have 13 teachers. And so there's a total of 246. But in first grade, I have 14 teachers, so we're minus one class. That's why. Yes, and it just depends on who comes and enrolls. This year in pre-kinder, we had scheduled 4 teachers. And then we grew because those kids came in, so we had to add a teacher about 6 weeks into the school year. And so,
Realistically, if we're at 292, we're not.
yeah, that's first grade.
I don't foresee our attendance going down. Like
And-
7 more homes being built.
And we did accept
Yeah, this year.
transfers in kinder, even that's the number, because that was the only grade that we did allow transfers because the number in kinder is so low.
All right, this is just for planning purposes. We hope that more students will come. Okay, then on your next sheet, you have, well, just how many transfer students are there here? Because you might remember when London did not have a high school, we had quite a few transfers of high school from London ISD. And now that they have built their own campus, these numbers have changed. But it shows you how many transfer students we have, and this would include employees' children who are here as well. And last year we had 524, and this year 426. And then there's a breakdown by campus. Okay, that's just for planning purposes. And that's all I have on the budget development. Because we're looking at number of students, we are still looking at teacher salary schedules and stipends and that sort of thing. There's no action on this item.
Okay, next up, number 8, discuss and consider stipend for teacher shortage areas.
The Texas Education Agency has told us that there is a shortage of teachers, and we have realized that all over Texas. There are less people going into the profession and less staying in the profession. And the Texas Education Agency listed the following areas as critical needs in schools: bilingual ESL, both elementary and secondary, special education, elementary and secondary, technology applications and computer science, English language arts and reading, career and technical education, math, secondary only, and science secondary only. So what we looked at was, for this shortage, many other schools give a stipend for these critical need areas in order to try to attract teachers in these particular areas. So right now in bilingual, we have in the elementary and secondary, 13 teachers. What we would like to do is to give each one of them $3,500. and it's spread out over their 12-month of their contract. And so that amount would be $45,500. For special ed, we would be looking at, we now have 28, and giving them $1,000 would be $28,000. Now, we cannot use District of Innovation to replace bilingual and special ed, because that's federal law. And DOI just applies to state law. In special ed, adaptive ed, we have 8 teachers. That's a little bit more difficult job, so we say 3,000. That amount is 24,000. In math, 2,000. We have 21 math teachers in the district, and this is secondary only. In science, secondary, we have 17, and give them 2,000 stipend, and that total amount would be $173,500. And this is sort of an estimate because in the event we have more, we have less, depending on how many students we have, and how many teachers we have to hire. But this gives us an estimate of how to plan, and for Ms. Elizondo to advertise that for the first time we're offering some of these stipends.
When you say this is stipend, is it like a sign-on bonus, or is this gonna be something they're gonna get?
It is paid for in their 12 equal months. It is not sign-on.
For teachers we have now, it's teachers we hire, right?
Either way, if they're with us now, they would realize this increase, or if they were trying to attract them, we could say, oh, your science, well, guess what? That's 2,000 extra.
So if an increase in their salary like $290, so what they're making now.
And remember, a stipend is,
Just on the first.
and a stipend is subject to change each year. It's not guaranteed. So if next year you said, you know, we want to give somebody with math, you know, we can't find math anywhere, let's do $5,000, because some schools do that. You could certainly change it.
These are all certified.
These would be all certified, but of course, under DOI, they might not be.
So you
But
would give a stipend to uncertified teachers also?
But in the fine print here, it says, we want them to have a Texas teacher certificate and be assigned in that subject.
I was gonna say, you have it written right here that.
Then you
Yes.
wanted to, but you still would give it to an uncertified.
No, we're not.
These are just for certified.
These are for certified teachers, trying to attract certified
This
teachers.
does not include the paras. This does not include the paras, only the certified teachers.
This is only teachers,
Can I ask
certified
you a
teachers.
question?
Yes.
The SPED program, you have 28 teachers in the elementary and secondary. Why do they only get 1,000? I mean, everybody else is getting at least 2,000. Why are we, I mean, that's a stressful job. I live that life every day. And I miss Alvaro, I mean, I'm gonna tell you the truth, how I feel, that's a slap in the face for these teachers that, you know, I'm not taking nothing away from the other teachers. And I will make sure everybody hears that. But is it because the amount of teachers or how did y'all base that? You know?
I think it was the amount of teachers and trying not to have too high of a price. We could certainly raise
Well, you
that.
know what, we're spending money in other directions. I think these teachers deserve at least 2,000
Okay.
to meet the other, I mean, to meet the lowest end of whatever's on that chart. I would like to see those teachers get that salary.
All right, let's change that then to $2,000.
And you said that we are still looking at teacher raises, right?
Yes.
I understand putting stipends in place, but I'm still 100% on board for all teacher raises to go up.
Yes, we
I
are
think that's
too.
over a year. So,
We are looking at that as well.
My question on that comment there, though, are we looking at this, you know, I guess my question would be, if we're giving our stipends down, and we're talking about trying to give them a raise, would they get a better raise on a permanent issue where it can't be taken away from them? By looking over the whole, looking at it as a package instead of just saying, I mean, I mean, is this something we can handle now, but this can go away if we're, we don't have money, is that what we're saying? These stipends?
No, I think we're just saying there is a little bit more flexibility A stipend can be changed, a salary cannot. You can never lower a teacher's
I
salary.
would think if I was going close to living, I want to know that my salary is not ever going to be taken away from me.
It is
And worrying about getting this today and gone tomorrow. Kind of need to hear money. Yeah, it's great when we get this money, but not knowing that we're going to get it that one particular year. You know, we're all at a dark point. Right. Exactly. But, well, I'm just saying, because you get a permanent, you get a permanent increase at a higher percentage. What would that cost us? I mean, it's still gonna
Well,
go.
if you remember the previous budget discussions, for us to match the Cal Allen pay scale, just for teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors, we need $750,000 extra above and beyond what we have budgeted now to match Cal Allen's. And that's just the teachers. That's just the people on the teacher's pay scale. That doesn't include administrators, all other certified people that are not certified in that category, repairs, all the other people in the district. So we're looking right now to get across the board raises. It's going to be a minimum $1 million extra. And we're going to try to maximize that. And that's going to be for the whole district. Right, tonight what we're asking is, we're trying to do, to compete with all the other school districts, is we're also throwing in some stipends here, recommending start targeting these critical areas.
We got to start moving.
We're having trouble getting teachers.
No, I just don't want to short them on the current paper, you know what I mean? That's like you're saying, I mean, like right now.
I can tell you, the stipends that we're considering are not going into the equation we're going to try to adjust the regular teacher salary. So we're going to maximize the teacher salary scale, because that's the biggest part, and that's the most important.
And the reason we haven't given you the teacher salary scale yet is because we're still waiting for Nueces County to tell us about our taxes, how much our income is going to be.
It's gonna be a lot. We're gonna make a lot of money.
So this basically competed with time.
So what's the new total? No, I get that, I just don't want, in other words, I don't want to actually take all things in this one. I mean,
It's 86,000.
No, I would say, if you add 28,000, because they already have 1,000 in there for you. So if you match the lowest pay is 2,000, so if you add another 1,000, you're adding 28,000 to this 173.5.
201,500.
205, so that's what, 201 what?
201,500.
But that's a good thing, because these are critical the areas where they,
Are we short any of these people right now?
Yes.
How many? I mean, that would have been nice to know how many we were short right now.
Like bilingual, we lost 6 bilingual teachers just in the primary
It's
school.
almost half of them are missing.
So we
I
were hiring
have
some
7,
tonight.
I'm losing 6.
We're losing 6.
And remember science last year, we couldn't find a science teacher, and we had to add a sign-on bonus of $7,500. The math teacher we lost due to COVID early in the year, we haven't been able to replace them.
So will they stay if they're getting a stipend now?
The bilingual teachers have been getting a stipend of $3,500 already.
Oh, so that's already been.
That's already been figured in. At some point, somebody passed that. I don't know the history of that.
So this is on top of that one.
So this is just continuing that.
We're just trying to continue
Not
adding
on top of what.
to critical needs. No, it's not on top of it. It was $3,500 per teacher.
Even though the asterisk, the first, that bilingual stipend was already good.
It also shows you, even offering that stipend this last year, because we had such a hard time getting the turnover is tremendous. Even whatever we do offer, we're still doing such a. But what we're asking tonight is, it's not the big picture yet, but we're also putting things out there that we can say that we can I tell you, do we have this money? We can't afford it to do this. So this is the price of doing business. So trying to compete with everybody else, so we're trying to get on the same page.
I agree with Ben that, especially at these,
Yes.
at least 2,000. Because they put up, other stuff in the bottom.
We do that. All right,
Keep in
so,
mind, this is just an estimate. They have to meet the criteria that we set to be eligible for the stipend. Certification, they have to meet the area, the shortage, to address the shortage. So this is not, we're throwing a number out there for an estimate, but we're really just approving the stipend itself. And when we approve the budget, we'll have a breakdown, I can tell you here, ourselves, we know exactly how many people are getting stipends.
And Kim, in answer to your question, I do believe that this will help us retain teachers, because some of them are leaving for more money. They're happy with the district, but they just need more money. I believe this will help us.
okay, everybody ready? Question? Sorry. The administration recommends approval of the stipends for teachers in these critical need areas as presented. And I did make note of the 2,000 for special ed as presented. And it would be effective July 1st, 2022.
This is where I'll make that motion that, that we put the stipends for teachers in these critical need areas as presented with the addition. Give seconds. You have any comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Yes, discuss and consider, discuss and consider the increase in district's contribution toward employee health insurance and use.
Second.
Discuss and consider stipends for teachers who teach STAR and vehicle course.
All right, our wonderful TMISD principals requested that the board consider that the teachers who are responsible for STAR are putting in a lot of extra hours and energy to try to keep our students teach them with the right objectives so they score higher on our state exams. And so we looked at the charts you have in front of you. We looked at English language arts and reading, grades 3 to 8, 51 teachers at 1,000 apiece. Writing is only in grades 4 and 7. There are 17 of those teachers. In math, grades 3 through 8, there are 51 teachers. In science, and it's only tested in grades 5 and 8, there are 17 teachers. And in social studies, 8 teachers. And you can see the amounts there. The reason math has an extra 1,000 is because it is more difficult to teach, and we have our students have been falling behind in math. And so that amount ends up being 190,000. For our end of course subjects, if you teach English 1, grade 9, there are 4 teachers, it would be 1,000. English 2 for grade 10, 4 teachers. Algebra 1, that includes grades 8 and 9, 4 teachers. Biology 1, there are 9, usually 9th grade, and there are 3 teachers. And U.S. history for grade 10, there are 3 teachers. So that amount is 22,000. The administration recommends approval of these stipends as presented, effective July 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We have a motion to the recommendation. Here, second. Comments?
I have a comment. This is also paid out of the 12-month period.
Yes, it is. They must have a valid Texas teacher certificate and be teaching in the tested area.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, again, there's one more. I'm sorry. Okay, if you don't pass the writing or the English 2, what happens to the student if you don't pass these STAR tests? And I got a point, so I'm just.
Okay, will they go into remediation?
So,
Dr. White, would you like to answer that?
Or is the question, are you asking what happens to a student after they don't
Well,
pass?
I guess here's my point, I think they're just trying to be a little sassy, but why is it more important for the math teacher than it is for all the other teachers? Because if you fail the other subjects, you still don't pass the test.
The reason why we're putting more emphasis on the algebra is because our data is telling us that's our highest need. And also considering that we have a teacher shortage and due to just our ability currently on secondary campuses to retain our math teachers, given all those factors, that's the reason why we're prioritizing the money a little bit more there.
I'm usually with John, I'm not trying to open the checkbook up too much, especially because we started with this year, but, I mean, you know, I don't want to take anything away from the math teachers. But it's, I guess what I'm trying to say is that is there any room Philip to add to the other teachers?
We're up for any, we're up for any discussion or anything, but it's basically
And it's a rough time for everybody. I mean, teachers are getting second jobs just to meet, you know. Yeah, this is great, but we can't give a raise. I mean, you know, this is our future. I mean, this is, they're teaching our kids. You know, so, you know, can we bump them up to 1,500? I mean, can we bump them up to 1,200? You know, 1,000 to me is like, you know, it's like, okay, well, here, you know, I mean, go be quiet and we get, you know, 1,500. I mean, these are critical times and these are critical educators. We have to pass this on. And I know we have a teacher shortage and stuff, but I guess this is anything we can do to help our teachers. Could you live with that? Could you live with bumping them up to 1,200? I mean, could the district live with that? Or are you just like,
we're committed to address all the needs, and our highest priority is teacher compensation and district employee compensation. So, we'll have to make it work. It's cost of doing business, and we've made it our number one priority, so we can make it work. If you feel that that's not, you'd like to increase the amount to make it more of an incentive.
I mean, I know there's a lot of teachers, but I don't, you know, 1,250, and we bump it up a couple of $100. Let's see if we can live with that, if you can manage that, or, I don't know. You know, right now, it's about hospital campus.
How much would that increase the teacher's pay salary for a year?
This is an annual amount. This would go on top of their teacher pay scale.
It's on top.
Yeah. So they make 50.
If we changed it to $1,200, that'd be $100 a month. So,
That's a good start.
It's the math lines.
Makes me happy.
So,
You're right, that's right.
so did I hear $1,200 or? Okay. And math still stays at 2? All right, then I'm changing my chart to $1,200 for STAR, ELAR, writing, math, science, social studies, and end of course, also $1,200, and the math stays at 2,000.
Yes, I think it
That makes sense. Good. Okay. Can you say, the administration recommends approval of these stipends as presented effective July 1st, 2022. Yes.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carries 0. And discuss and consider the increase in the district's contribution for the employees' health insurance premium.
All right, as we've been meeting to talk about benefits to teachers and trying to give them more, we looked at our health insurance contribution. And we've been giving employees $275 a month towards the premium cost. And we have, if they are taking the TRS insurance plan. And so to offset the projected health insurance premium increases, and to prepare for the employee benefits open enrollment season, which begins in July of 2022, the district recommends increasing the monthly contribution to $300 starting September 1, 2022. The administration recommends the board approve increasing the district monthly health insurance contribution to $300 effective September 1, 2022.
I'll make that motion. The small addition that we just made, that's gonna barely cover what the
Yes, so we're gonna find out, I think this week, the new TRS rates for next year. We know they're gonna go up, but this is the third year in a row that we increase this number. We were at the minimum 2 years ago, 225. Our goal is to continue to bump this up every year.
Typically, what is it?
Well, I'll tell you the minimum is 225.
What does it cost TRS minimum plan this year?
Right now, for 21, 22, I'll just give you one. If you're on the lowest plan, employee only, the employee has to kick in. After the contribution of the 275, the employee has to pay $142. That's just for the employee population.
So we'll be nowhere close to paying for the minimum plan, correct?
Correct, yes. The minimum, that's the lowest out of pocket per month for the cheapest plan, just for the employee. But I will tell you, that's another area where we are a lot lower than surrounding districts, so we're working on that.
I don't think some school districts pay their
there are a few districts, I do believe, that pay 100%. Maybe if they're individual, I'm not sure about the family plans, because the family plans get pretty pricey for TRS.
But they usually pay the minimum.
If you're on, I do know there's a couple districts that if you're on the, if you're individual and you're on the high deductible plan, they pay 100%. I do know one district that if you're an auxiliary employee, they pay for 100% funding. Like a paraprofessional or all your maintenance and grounds people, you're non-certified. But I will tell you, unfortunately, if you compare us to the rest of the area, we're still pretty far below a lot of other areas.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So this is only for certified people?
No, this is for anybody that elects to take the TRS insurance.
Right, okay, that's.
Yeah, and everybody's eligible. Everybody's eligible. If you're in a TRS eligible position, you have the option to take the TRS insurance. You don't have to, but you can. Right now, we have approximately 300 people that are on the insurance. We have about 550 regular full-time employees.
Any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 0. Discuss and consider approval of new salary chart for custodians and grounds employees.
As we continue talking about maintenance and operations, Ida Bernades is going to talk to you about
Good evening. Basically the same thing. We're having the same problems in maintenance and operations, retaining employees. When I wrote this 2 weeks ago, we were short 28. I lost another one last week, so we're up to 29. If you look at the breakdown of the scale to our current employees, the 50, 49 we have left working for us, 64% of them have worked 0 to 5 years with TMISD. 16% have worked 6 to 10 years. 10% from 11 to 15 years, and 10% 16 to more years or more. What that's showing us is we're spending a lot of time in training. We're training our employees, we're getting them up to speed, and as soon as they're up to speed, then they find an opportunity at another location and they transfer out of here. Our current pay scale is attached. For the grounds and maintenance, it's one set fee of $12. Our neighbors all have a step scale, and that's why we're proposing a step that we can see on the second page, and to offer that so we can be competitive with our neighbors. This by no means makes us the highest paying in the area or anything like that, but it makes us a little bit more competitive so we can hopefully keep our employees here at TM. Once we get them trained, we really want to have a bell curve, but we're just bringing a smaller amount. The middle years is where we want to be kind of thicker and have more experience in here. That'd be our ideal situation. And hopefully with this pay scale, again, it's not going to put us at the top of the pay scale in any of the area districts, but at least makes it competitive so we can hopefully retain some of our employees. Any questions about the charts? I placed all the numbers there with the breakdowns. And if you look at the end of the total salaries per year, it's included.
It's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the maintenance and operations pay scale as presented, effective May 1, 2022.
I'll make that motion that the Board of Trustees approve the maintenance and operations pay scale as presented effective May 1st, 2022. We have a second. Comments? I'd like to say one. These guys put on a lot of time and know what Patrick's talking about. With a lot of people go in, train them, then they move on. Some of the others have been around here for a long time. It needs to be recognized. The pay scale helps that out considerably. I think that's almost get them close to where they need to be. They put a lot of time. Okay, you got a comment?
Is anybody applying at $13 an hour? Put over the next.
And that's not too many, but we're hoping to increase some more. The job force is coming back. If we can at least get it to interview, that's what we're hoping to get here.
What do you spend on training? So I think we're going to use it on. Because I know in most situations, it costs like $3,800 per employee training process.
You gotta understand, most of these are pretty minimal, so it's grounds. The training is shadowing another person with a lead year or a 0-1. It's not a technical training like HVAC. And those would be hard, so we'll be looking for HVAC, but then that would be paid based on experience and their licenses. They're recovery, able to get refrigeration company, stuff like that. These are more the basic skill ones. If you're looking at custodian, auto scrubber, brand new auto scrubber sitting on the other side of the wall. We just did training because we had so much turnover. Last week during intercession on Thursday, we brought in a company and we trained all our custodians on how to use the auto scrubber. So yes, that took a day of our time that we could have been cleaning buildings, but we have to train the employees on how to use the equipment.
Well, I'm just saying that there's a turnover rate. You come in, dollar amount.
I can't give you an exact dollar amount, but I can tell you those.
Patrick, you gotta figure out where to get these guys.
Well, with the entire district, I mean, we need to bring up the, not just these guys, they're sitting here this evening, but we need to do it for all the district employees. We're just taking small steps if we can get that direction.
I apologize for doing that, but at the same time, I mean, so many little water burner get $14 an hour. You know, I'm just telling you, man, you know, $13 an hour is not that bad. You're good for that people there. No, I didn't. No, that's true, that's true.
I fully appreciate that, but I understand that it's gonna take $1 million or a little bit more than $1 million to get us there, some steps, and we've got to take some steps and start looking for that money.
Headed in the right direction.
Yeah, it is in the right direction. Thank you. You deserve it. Any other comments or questions? Motion there, a second, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Discuss and consider approval of dress code policy of 2022.
All right, let's review quite a few pages that are in your packet. The principals and I have been discussing dress code policy changes that are needed because of Title IX, which means that we need to come into what other schools are doing and what's required in federal law in Title IX is that the same dress applies to boys and girls. I know in the past we had some distinctions, and we're going to talk about how that might change. Principals will still need to work with their site-based teams to come back to write what their dress code is going to be so that we can get the message out to the parents. If you will look on the next page, we have Board Policy FNCA Exhibit, which is Tolosa Midway Student Conduct Dress Code. And it lasts 4 pages. And it's difficult to enforce. I'm not sure how long it's been in policy. It's dated 2021, but I'm not sure it was really last updated. And then you have one with the TM logo on the circle in the upper left-hand corner, which is just an example or a draft of what the policy could look like. I'm not saying that's what it is, it's just an example. In other words, we're not calling the tops blouses anymore because it has to apply to both boys and girls, so we're going to use the word tops. And we talk about nothing see-through, no oversized shirts, no display of undergarments, many of the same things that you had in your current policy. And hair must be neat and clean and out of the eyes. I worked at a school before that had that policy, and it kind of takes the pressure off of how long somebody's hair is going to be. I know that's difficult, but if you don't tell a girl how short to cut her hair, then you can't really tell a boy how short to cut his hair. Of course, there may still be rules that coaches may pass and require, which would be up to them, and students would know that going in. Still no jewelry or tattoos. Earrings create a distraction or dangerous will be confiscated, but both boys and girls could have earrings in this case, because we don't tell girls they can't wear the earrings while we're telling the boys they can't have them. The one thing that becomes an issue is facial hair, because the girls don't have the facial hair. And what some schools do is they will adopt a general dress code, but they will say the boys must be clean shaven. That is up to these site-based committees to determine, and also to determine what the punishment would be, or if they're going to ISS for the day, or if they're going to shave, or whatever the rule would be. Then you have board policy FNCA local, which TASB sent to me because I was asking them, what is the best policy? And they said it is best in a board policy not to have all the fine details about what you're calling things and earrings and skirt length and all that. They said this is better to talk about the purpose of the dress code is established to teach grooming and hygiene, maintain a positive learning climate, prevent disruption, and avoid safety hazards. And then the general guidelines, it's still, if something is considered lewd, offensive, vulgar, or obscene, it's not allowed. You cannot advertise tobacco, alcoholic beverages, drugs, or any substance prohibited by another board policy. In extracurricular activities, the principal, in cooperation with sponsor, coach, or other person in charge of the extracurricular activity may regulate the dress and grooming of students who participate in the activity in accordance with this policy and administrative regulations. Students who violate dress and grooming standards established for such an activity may be removed or excluded from the activity for a period determined by the principal or sponsor and may be subject to other disciplinary action as specified in the student code of conduct. So if the board happens to adopt this policy next month, which would be the second reading, then the campuses would be developing their policy with all the details in it. And this policy would be what the board elects to vote on. And since this is just for discussion, I welcome your comments.
Last year, there was issues with facial, with beards. At graduation, there was people with razors. So Title IX or this title doesn't say that girls can't have facial hair. I said that description, it doesn't say that girls can't have facial hair.
Well, I think what it would say is that everyone must be clean shaven. Do girls have facial hair? Sometimes they might.
It doesn't. What I'm trying to say is, if a boy has a nicely groomed beard, I mean, it would be almost at the discretion of a principal or something like every other thing. What's wrong with that? I mean, you had several boys last year having to shave their beards. Some kids have acne on their face, like my son, and he had to still shave. And it's painful, it doesn't make you feel good. He enjoys, but it's nicely groomed. He gets it groomed once a week. So what's wrong with a boy having a nice groomed beard because they want to have it? I mean, would that be something we could consider?
That would be something that the campuses would have to consider.
I think my only problem with each campus determining what they're gonna do is if they're not close together, you've got kids that move from 5th grade to 6th grade and, they go to different campuses. It's hard for those parents and those kids to change from a real big change in a policy of dress code. If we could keep it across the board pretty much the same, there is no transition from campus to campus, and you've got people trying to follow it 0 or pre-K through 12th grade. And I understand a little bit more freedom at the middle school and the high school, so be it, or a little bit shorter shorts at the elementary school because it's not an issue down there. But I think we need to kind of stay the same on every campus, or we're gonna be running into issues and parents making excuses, well, my kid's not following it because she or he was able to do it last year. So
You're right, we do need to be consistent, and it might be that the campuses will develop an elementary policy and then a secondary policy. Or it might be that there's just one policy. I'm not sure how that's going to play out because we're going to take input from everybody, and then Dr. White and I will be looking at it and seeing if we can make it one or if it needs to be 2 separate ones. And of course, little kids at primary generally have a kind of a different dress code than a high school student would have.
I agree with you on that, but we're not going to see a lot of 7th and 8th grade kids. Unless he's a 4-year 8th grade.
No, but
I get it.
there needs to be consistency.
Yes, it needs to be consistently enforced as well.
Because of the fact that like people say and others say, there is consistency. The parents develop one campus to the next campus, and it's confusing.
And really with year-round school, I don't know about other people, I don't go school clothes shopping anymore. If they're only out of school for a little while, they can still wear their clothes, they wear it, I don't know how other households do it, you buy new when they grow out of it, but, with the year-round school, that helps, but, we definitely need to be consistent, because they need to be able to wear what they wore last year, next year. We don't have, not all kids can go out and buy new clothes every year.
That's
It's
true.
important, it's important.
And we still want them to be able to wear jeans and, school shirts if that's what they want to wear.
Yes.
So,
Because that's more affordable.
so the policy we have in effect right now, we're really not following that on any of the campuses. Are y'all following the policy?
Well, there's colored hair, I know that.
Yeah, there's colored hair in high school.
There's dyed hair.
I'll speak to that. So, we always give students the opportunity to fix it. The issue we've run into is that fixing it has become a bit of a problem. So when we have male students with earrings, we tell them to take it out, they walk around the corner, they put it right back in. We have students who need to shave, and they put a face mask on. Because of the current status of COVID, we can't tell them to take the face mask on or off at this point. So as these things were to change with our girls that have colored hair, we do tell them they need to change their hair color. We give them 2 weeks, we contact the parents, and then they change it within 2 weeks. What we're afraid of is that when we tell our girls that when they have over-dyed hair, it tends to fall out, and we have another issues at the time that they dye it more than once in a certain amount of time. So we
have a handbook they sign at the beginning of the school year.
right. So we just try to work with our kids and work with our parents to make sure that they have enough time to fix the situation. That's what we do.
Can we legally tell them not to, they have to change their hair color?
If
Whether
we-
we have a policy or not?
So in a different district that I used to work for, we had a kid who got his ears, brushing piercing, and sat in ISS for 3 weeks. So they refused to take them out. Because he didn't want them to close. So that is something we would have to do. And I would tell you, as a high school principal, I do not have the room to put that many kids in ISS for that long. I have 7 seats in ISS, and they are filled daily with discipline issues that require ISS. A lot of students tend to use dress code as a means to get into ISS. So if I don't feel like going to class that day, I will come to school and have a dress code on purpose. And then we are back to the situation. So we tell them to fix it, we give them a shirt, we tell them to put a jacket on, something to work with them so that they stay in class. It is a constant battle that no administrator wants to fight, but it is the fight that we have. So that's the situation. We're just telling you the situation comes through the day, every day. We want to educate our kids.
My question was under the title 9, I mean, does that?
We are very cognizant as principals of what Title IX says, and it bothers us when we have to tell a kid you can or can't do something when we know there's a legal precedent that says we shouldn't. That does affect us because we are the ones who get in trouble for it, and that's something we have to live with every day. So we are, that's just the situation we find ourselves in.
Well, I guess our legal department has to tell us what we can and can't do under the Title IX chapter.
Right. That's why they're recommending that you adopt this one policy that speaks to, community standards and come up with something that meets Title IX. Okay, there's no action on this is just first reading.
I mean, I know we don't have it here, but in the skill level of importance, I mean, as long as they're not coming in overly bearing, obvious, the job's still just educate kids.
Yeah, but what you may consider over period or whatever is gonna be someone else's.
Okay, well, here's a clue, but there's people that are builders this community that challenge the policy on their own. And they're people that are more active, have to get outgoing, because we see it in different groups of people. I mean, you see it in athletics, you see it in theater arts, so it's really not something fair to focus on. Of everything else the administrative staff has to do, you're not wanting the police to the area to say, really, when we did our regular $100 bill, I'm like, you want to throw money in your hand, check the girls? I'd rather you work on the things you do, we need to do the things you do for us, not, you know what I mean? I mean, I get it, you want somebody else? Yeah, I get that one, but I mean,
It goes
my
into
kid don't leave the house without shoes. He wants shoes.
well.
step further than that, it's teaching responsibility when we go out there. Follow the rest of them.
You have to put something back in the house. I mean, respect starts at home.
That's where.
I mean, you know what I mean? That's why I'm asking the level. I mean, I know we've always had, I'm not saying do away with all of the taxes. We're just saying, you know, guys, I think a couple of months ago, we were having a conversation in regards to, you know, speed of the bigger speed of the package, what I always tell you, but if we're not requiring so much of our professionals, and we're gonna tell our students, hey, don't be like, you know, do what I tell you. It's a bad example. I mean, you know, there's some things we might have to, times are changing. And, you know, we have to really consider that, and take that into consideration when it comes to this. Because I think that we're putting this topic here that brings up too many trips to the superintendent's office, that they could be doing something else.
Yes, we are a learning organization.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a comment, and then we're going to have to.
John, I mean, this one actually is shorter than the other, which was 4 pages long, and listed into all that detail. This gives it a broader perspective so that they can develop across the board.
And that's true, but here's the thing. What I'm trying to tell my board colleagues here is that if you leave it to perception, you're gonna always have that person say, well, John did it, what could have done? Why is it okay for Patrick that it wasn't okay for Patty? You know, you're always gonna have that fight, and it's just time consuming. I mean, that's really what I'm trying to get at.
Mr. Alvarado, is there a serious dress code problem in high school?
My personal opinion, are you still happening at Earth? So if the kids aren't affected the way the kids dress up, they're not. They have them in class every day, they're not affecting one way or the other. It's distracting to the student, distracting to the educational process. My answer would have to be we have other school districts in our area who are much strict, much more lenient dress codes. I think education is in all of them. You know, I think it would take some getting used to for, you know, for any of us. But I guarantee if you look at a college class, a senior in college, they do not dress in any way, shape, or form in any type of dress that they want to. I do not want our kids coming in.
And that was a problem that we had at one time in high school. Kids were showing up in pajama pants.
Right.
Are they still, do you still have that going on?
We still do have some kids show up and we tell them to change. And if they can change, because the parents read themselves, sometimes they can't. Like I said, we are trying to work with our kids. Our learning gaps are so vast right now with COVID. It is hard to stay sit in ISS for a week when you should be learning because you're falling behind and you're not engaged in graduating. My personal opinion, whoever it's worth, I think we have to have a dress code that decides whether or not it's distracting to the kid, not distracting to the adult. And sometimes I think that gets lost. But that's my personal opinion.
Okay, that was just a quick reading of this. We'll come back to this again next month. Okay, it's just discussion. Now we move on to consider agenda discussion action items, check payment register, report, one request to report enrollment report, minutes of regular special call board meeting.
Okay, it's the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Court. We have a motion on the administrative recommendation statement. Do you have a second, please? Comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion passes.
You say that because you don't know.
It's your favorite part.
Sorry.
That's the deal. never lived in me.
Okay. Board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open, Texas State Code 551 for possible discussion of form certified, non-certified personnel, 551.074, discussion of permanent non-chapter 21 contracts, discussion for resignations and retirements. Discuss safety and security report. Closed session after five minutes, report should take such action before we continue in open session. 551.102, certified agenda and closed session is maintained. 551.103, how you post disclosed according to the law. 551.104. Recess to room, we'll have a short break. Please. Okay, 5-minute break. We'll take a 5-minute recess and convene at 8:37 p.m. April 25th, 2022. Well, the crowd got smaller, so I have to yell so much now.
We're your troopers.
Yeah. It's 9:58 p.m. April the 25th, 2022. We're back in open session.
Okay. Okay. It is recommended the Board of Trustees issue a, can we go one by one?
No, you can state it first.
Okay, this is one statement. It's recommended the Board of Trustees issue a one-year contract for the educator term, educator probationary, dual/probationary, educator retiree hire, and non-chapter 21 contracts for the 2022-23 school year as presented on the attached list.
Thank you, Mrs. Court. We have a motion to administrative recommendation.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. What do you say? Jim? Comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Is that 6-0?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
And there's no action from the information on
yeah,
second
there's no action for the information. Mrs. Court, any further business?
No, thank everybody for coming tonight.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're still here. Entertain the motion to let me try. And Ben seconds it. All those in favor? It is 9:50. No, it's 10 o'clock. April 25th, 2022. We're out of session.